7:02, and I call to order this meeting of the Development Review Board for October 9th, 2017. I'll briefly go over the business agenda tonight. We have 4 applications. The first one is by John and Judith DeButer for a subdivision on Quarry Road. The second is an application by David Joy for a final subdivision on Road 18. And the third is an application by R.K. Miles for a conditional use review on Exchange Street. And the fourth is an application by S.W. Apartments for a conditional review on Sugarwood Court. Are there any communications from the public on any item not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none. Make sure if you're going to participate in the meeting tonight, if you sign the sign-in sheet, either over there or going around somewhere. Thank you. First item is the approval of minutes for September 25th. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any questions, comments, changes, or concerns?
The only thing I could see, Kevin, line 64 starts out with Mike McGrath. I believe it's McGrath, G-R-A-T-H, not F-F. That's minor, but
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And one,
I'm
two,
abstaining
You're abstaining.
because I was not at the meeting.
Okay.
he's abstaining. I was here, but I didn't participate.
Okay. For any of them?
Well, I couldn't prove the minutes. Part of that is I wasn't sitting at the table here.
Okay. All right. All right, the first, item on the business agenda is an application by John and Judith DeButer for a final subdivision review of a proposal to create a 2-lot subdivision. The property is located at 450 Quarry Road, parcel ID 5008 in the AR zoning district. If you'd like to step forward or explain, and for all participants, I will administer an oath. I affirm that the evidence and information I am giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief. Thank you. All right, John, if you'd like to briefly explain to us.
Yeah, I have a 1+ acre parcel on 450 Quarry Road. 2 homes on it. And I would like to subdivide one of the homes off that property into its own, in case at some point I want to sell it. And it would make it easier to sell, obviously, than the subdivision.
Oh, we need to, that microphone isn't good. So,
You know, mine.
I can use yours?
Yeah, totally.
Is he just not close enough to it, or?
No, it's mine.
Might not. No, I see that.
I guess for the record, John, if you'd like to repeat so that the video gets it.
Sure. I have a 4+ acre parcel at 450 Quarry Road. I've owned it for a good number of years. And I want to subdivide one of the houses into a 1.03 acre lot. In case somewhere down the line I want to sell it, or my spouses want to sell it if something happens to me. It just makes it easier to sell if it's subdivided. It has its own water, its own sewer, and that's basically all I have.
Okay. There is going to be a right-of-way over the new lot, and that will serve the remaining lot and another parcel. Is that right?
It serves both parcels.
Okay, that's right. But is there a third, does it serve also um, the lands of Vermont
Marble.
Marble, yeah.
That's in the back southeast corner, 1
Okay, but
acre.
Does that access gonna serve them as well?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's just, this access will be serving those two lots only?
Yes.
Okay.
They purchased that from my father, so they knew back then they were gonna put a quarry over there. They wanted a place to put a power pole, which they never did.
So the house that you wanna take away from the lot, it's your brother's old house, correct?
Yes.
So how did we deal with that when he built that?
Just a building permit.
That's all that was required at the time? There was no subdivision?
No.
Two houses on one lot, right? At the time.
Because you had plenty of acreage, that, yeah, okay.
Any other questions at this point from the board? Jen, anything from the staff, comments?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions, and I should have asked you when you were in the office. I'm sorry for the surprise.
It's okay.
As I read it closer on Friday, I saw that the surveyor's got some notes on the survey. He did the old deed research, and it said that a right of ingress and egress benefiting the marble works over your land will be retained. So does that just mean that they can come in, not the marble works, the,
Vermont Marble.
Vermont Marble?
thank you, Vermont Marble, that quarry. So does that just mean that they'll come over some other place on your land to get to the quarry?
Not that I know of.
How would they get there in the future, you think?
I have no idea. There's a farm road that goes by my property and their piece, which probably is owned by Velco, I'm guessing.
I see that down.
It used to,
the right side.
where
Vermont
Velco,
Marble used to be a power transmission line from Belden's Falls to Rutland, and that line went through there.
right, and originally, before they increased the size, that was Richard Pominville's meadow.
Yep.
He sold them to Velco for the, and I would imagine they would have to deal with Velco, or, yeah, they couldn't access Pominville's, which is to the south of the power station, because there's no way into it. Yeah, it'd have to be on that farm road, I'm guessing.
And they don't have access to your, to their property through any of your land right now?
I wouldn't have a problem with them,
No, I understand.
yeah, but no, not to my knowledge.
Right.
I've never given it to them.
Another question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, this is also under the survey notes, number 9 there, that's just where I'm seeing these things. So the other one says, describing a provision in case the land is subdivided that a new water line be installed either to the house or the trailer, so each will be served by a line running from the water main through the property. Is that taken care of?
Yes,
Okay, sounds good.
The trailer's not there anymore.
it's not, it hasn't been there for a long
I'm
time.
gonna say,
House
Since
replaced it, right?
73.
House replaced it, right?
What's that?
The house replaced
Yes.
it.
yeah.
The house has been there since, let's see, 76, I believe, because I built my house in 75.
Anything else? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from the public? Hearing none. Anything more from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearings of May 8th.
No. That's no motion.
Pardon?
That's,
Oh,
This
okay.
copy, it's
All right, yeah.
today, October 9th.
He hadn't
Hi,
done
Gary.
anything for 2 years.
That was me.
Okay. I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at public meeting October 9th, approve this request for preliminary subdivision approval to create a 2-acre.
That's wrong to the address there, right?
Yeah. And the size is wrong.
It's a 1 plus.
I obviously cut and
Why doesn't somebody else?
I cut and pasted this one. I'm sorry.
Don't give up, Gary.
In accordance with the
Doing well, Gary.
application.
So it should say to create a 1.03 acre lot
Exactly.
Yeah.
at 450 Quarry Road.
Well, that particular lot is 424.
424? So that was wrong too. Okay, hey, we're getting it figured out. That's why we have hearings,
It
right?
says here 494.
It's like shooting the moon in hearts.
So what is the
That's why they
four?
have meetings, get it all straightened
That's
out.
right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
mine-
what is the address?
424 is where the new
424.
subdivision.
424.
Okay. Now, Jen,
Yes.
is this is this gonna be a final hearing?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'll try again here. I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard, duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of October 9th, 2017, approve this request for preliminary subdivision
No,
approval.
final subdivision.
Okay, approve this. This final request,
Final subdivision.
this final subdivision. To create a 2-acre lot at
No.
424 South Munger Street, subject to approval.
1.03 acres.
1 point, how much?
1.03 acres.
Create a 1.30 acre lot at 424 South Munger Street,
Quarry Road.
Quarry Road. 424 Quarry Road.
I've been going to
Subject
the-
to approval of the final plot by the DRB chair. You got that?
Does everybody understand the motion?
I've been going to the wrong address since 1952.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
It's 1.03,
Yep.
not 1.3.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what they told me.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
I don't think I'll do, I don't think I'll make any more motions.
Oh, you're gonna do it fine, Gary.
Scared him off.
Yeah, that's why everybody's looking.
It's a mute point, but it looks like this terminates. Not on. This is true. Where is it? Okay. From this vantage point.
I don't believe,
Kevin, I believe
I don't believe
that Catherine has
on
been
surveys.
before
They
this
don't-
board before.
I mean, in fact, my general rule is that I
Yeah.
don't believe
She's
anything
been
between that
before this
corner
board
and that
before?
corner. Could be
Catherine's
any-
not here. Right.
But,
Or,
I mean, I
well, the
commonly
same
find these
applicant,
things
it's just,
all over the place, or the
Catherine Smith and
delineated
David
ones,
Jones.
but actually twice a year.
No.
you were here before.
Yeah.
They were here,
Hatch with no
yes,
building.
and there was a
Yeah.
decision
This
rendered.
is total garbage, though.
I was
These
not
things are all
present
over the
at
Right.
that meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will
They're
not
10
be.
feet. They're probably
Okay.
5 feet.
Okay, you won't be participating.
And you didn't see the video?
I did not see the video.
So these guys, this is a very high margin of error.
All
I
right,
don't care.
next item on the business agenda is an application by
Different color
David
code.
Joy for a final subdivision review of a proposal to create a 2-lot subdivision. This property is located at 46 Road 18, parcel 5116, in the high-density residential zoning district. Would like to come forward? Now, administer the oath for you and anyone that wants to participate. I affirm that the evidence and information I am giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief.
I do.
Okay. You would like to briefly explain what the subdivision is?
I would. After having received the results of my preliminary hearing, I have done some additional work since then. And if you've had an opportunity to read my letter to the board at this point, then you know what I'm here about. I took your directive from the preliminary meeting, and I did spend some considerable time looking into that and the feasibility of it from several different viewpoints. I do have some issues with it, and I am asking for a variance. And in that variance, I'd like to just preface it by showing you what it is that I looked into and why I feel a variance is necessary.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a variance. It's a hardship.
It's a hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't want them to think we're using the variance procedure, which is this whole other procedure.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
That's okay. First, I looked into the cost of it. And for that, I turned to Jason Bernard and to Tyler Billingsley, civil engineer, because I wanted to find out what the approximate costs of complying with your determination that Road 18 be brought up to A76 standards all the way up to my proposed driveway, which is on the trust property, about 500 feet or so. And in here I have shown the results of that. The additional survey and road design costs are about $3,000 to $4,000. These are all estimates. Jason Bernard is familiar with the property because he did do contour surveying for me earlier. Test pits to determine what the existing base materials in the existing Road 18 and the driveway up to the main house, $300 to $400, and then the Whopper, which is construction costs of paving to town road specs. That's a big range, and I questioned that and was told that it would vary widely depending upon the time of year and the variability of cost of materials, of pavement. So it looks like it's anywhere from the $52,000, $53,000 range up to maybe $80,000. And I can't give you a more definite estimate than what that is. But either one of them, if they came to fruit, would blow me right out of the water. Therefore, that's why I'm looking for a waiver. And I have several reasons. I think, first of all, Road 18, before I get into that paragraph, Road 18 is the road, the right-of-way, which goes from the exchange, Washington Street extension, comes up to a point where the existing driveways merge and continues right on all the way over to Painter Hills Road. But the thing is that there's a space in there that has never been developed. There are no lots fronting on it
So it is completely overgrown. If you've been there, you'll see that it's all trees. There is a power line that runs through there, but basically it's all overgrown. So I make a distinction between, when we talk about Road 18, I make a distinction between that 50-foot right-of-way and the driveway that goes up to the main house where my wife's mother lives, where my wife's brother and his wife live, and which is the main house up here. And I would point out at this stage that, yes, according to your instructions, I have shown an area with a 50-foot right-of-way coming up to my driveway, which is right here. This is road going through, that's the driveway going up. I have been coming over here ever since I met Tori, which was about 44 years ago. And I don't see that the driveway nor Road 18 is much different now than it was then. I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. There is, in the record books, in the deeds of the three folks who do have access right onto that right-of-way, a clause which calls for a reasonable contribution for road maintenance down here. That clause does certainly not apply to the driveway that goes up to the main house, but it does apply to the portion coming in from Washington Street Extension to where those driveways are. Excuse me. I would also point out that meeting your 50-foot right-of-way, which is shown on this plan, which I did give to Jennifer, I don't have any frontage at all on the 50-foot right-of-way, none. The land comes to a point right on the corner of the property. It gives me zero frontage on this right-of-way. The existing driveway goes past that property of hopefully mine and goes up to the main house. That's where my frontage is, from there to there. I have no frontage, as I said, on this 50-foot right-of-way. This 50-foot right-of-way, and I do not have any inclination, I don't know what it means, but this right-of-way that goes over to Painter Hills Road is still, according to the surveyor, in, let me read it for you. Lands lying within the 50-foot common right-of-way depicted hereon appear to be presently vested in the title of Dutton Smith Company Incorporated, and there is a deed reference there. The Dutton Smith Company ceased to be a number of years ago, and Dutton Smith, who was the owner of that company, passed away a couple of years ago. I'm not sure legally where that all lies. I maintain that the three properties here, here, and here, the Perrines, Eurister, and the other property, they all have frontage on that 50-foot right-of-way, as might have been intended by the original Painter Hills subdivision. And I guess I would say that the entire Smith property up here, the trust property, also has frontage on it. Just giving you some facts. The one thing I do want to say about this, though, very strongly, is that the members of the trust, which are my wife's mother, Kay, obviously my wife, her sister, Carly, Dutton Jr., who's sitting right behind me, and their brother, Alan. They have indicated to me that one thing they do not wish to have is a town road coming into their property. It's a private road. They wish to keep it a private road. In laying this out, yes, I've allowed for a 50-foot right-of-way. There might be some instance in the future where that would come into play, but there is nothing in the future at this time that the trust administrators themselves would want to have a 50-foot right-of-way, a town road. It's perhaps encouraging to think that, well, if we did do it to a town road standard, we could probably walk into the selectman's office and request that it be adopted by the town and get on that particular track. However, in order to do that, we understand that not only would we have to upgrade the road to my driveway, we'd have to upgrade it all the way up to the main house, where a large vehicle like a snowplow could be able to turn around up there. See, a 50-foot inside radius on a cul-de-sac, or the big L-shaped type back around. We've liked this road the way it is for, I would say, almost half a century now. Now, I spent most of my working life involved in both planning and architecture. After I graduated college, my first job was 6 years in working for a planning consultant. And I found myself not only writing comprehensive plans, but also writing zoning ordinances and subdivision regulations and the like. And after that, I worked for another 7 years at the Southern Maine Regional Planning Commission as their head planner, doing the same type of work. The only reason I'm telling you that is, in my experience, there is no such thing as a perfect ordinance. It is, I think, impossible to be cognizant of something that might happen in the future, that the words you have written within a regulation have no direct application. And I think this is one of those cases. In my mind, I can imagine a situation where the ordinance might have been drafted. It might have been brought to a public hearing. There might have been a few developers who were kind of interested in subdivision regulations. And there might have been some question about, well, how much road do I really have to build before I can start building houses? What do we? And it occurs to me that it seems rather logical that if that discussion ever happened, and perhaps it didn't, that it might be logical to say, well, if you develop, let's say you develop 4 lots. So you have a road going in, you develop 4 lots. When you do that 5th one, then you're faced with bringing the road up to town standards, which at that point, if the developer knows what they're doing, probably not too big a deal, particularly if they've been able to sell a couple of lots or a couple of houses and have the money to do that kind of thing. So with that kind of introduction, I think that 4 lots, and the 5th requires you to then upgrade the roads to town road standards, pave them, etc., doesn't really apply in this case. I can understand how it would have been very good for some situations, maybe a number of situations, but I fail to see how anyone could have foretold this situation. And I fully realize that cost by itself is not an excuse for making some kind of hardship waiver. And I fully understand that you folks are bound by the language that is in your ordinance. But I do believe that the cost is extravagant for the subdivision of 1 additional home. And even though I sit here knowing you have the language in your ordinance to deny me a hardship, I also sit here feeling that it is unreasonably unfair. I truly do not believe that 1 additional home on a private drive on this property with no frontage on Road 18 is not going to deteriorate the neighborhood, change the scope of things, make your ordinance obsolete. I think it is only fair that one person coming in at this juncture and proposing to put a house on this piece of property and expect them to bring up a road to town standards in a situation that hasn't really changed in 40 to 45 years. There is no reasonable way for me to go to the 3 neighbors and somehow, because of the language, which admittedly is somewhat weak in their deeds, to have them make an equal kind of contribution to this upgrade of the road. All that being said, I certainly would hope that you would vote in the affirmative to grant me some relief from that. But as I've said at the end of my piece here, in deference to all of that, if you were willing to not go down all of those avenues that I have mentioned, I would be willing to upgrade Road 18 from the Washington Street extension up to where it would encompass all 3 of the existing driveways down there, plus it would be right at the base of the driveway going up to the main house. I would make any corrections to existing culverts, clean them or replace them as need be. The roadway would be the 16 feet required by the number of trips per day that was figured out earlier. I would propose to do it as a gravel road, gravel wear surface. And kind of ignore my hippy-dippy last paragraph about the fact that Vermont has lots of dirt roads, Happy Valley being one of them. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, first, Road 18. So as you understand it, Road 18, whatever that is, ends right at where the road turns up to your parcel?
Yes.
And so the right-of-way from that point over to Painter Hills is not part of Road 18, it's just a right-of-way for those houses?
That's a good question. I guess I actually say that Road 18, in some sense, goes all the way over to Painter Hills, or was intended to. But that has never happened in the 40-some-odd years that has been there. And so I guess at this moment in time, I have to say that the right-of-way is not being used in that area, and that Road 18 goes to that juncture where those other driveways come in and ends.
Okay, so it may go over to Painter Road, but where it does not go is up to the main house on the
That
property?
is correct.
Okay.
Does not go up to the main house. I think, the several houses on this access drive, Road 18, coming in, there is a community mailbox row there, and everybody up there has their own mailbox, and it's designated as Road 18. But I don't think we think of the driveway coming up to the main house as being Road 18.
Okay, on this diagram, I'm reading, it says edge of wooded driveway, 16 feet paved. Is that, you're not proposing it to be paved?
I'm sorry, which document is that?
Well, that's the one we had in our,
Is that the one on the screen?
Oh. Yep, that's the
Can I
one.
interrupt for just a second? Do you guys in the back, do you mind, the whispering is kind of, sorry, I don't mean to be a jerk, but I'm trying to pay attention.
so, on this sheet, it says it's paved.
You're looking at different sheets. That's one
Yeah.
sheet advanced in the packet.
Okay, so this
He's
is,
looking at the previous drawing.
Do you have that, Jan?
I'm-
One drawing up in the packet, please.
You got it?
Thanks.
Right
That's
there.
the one Kevin has. I believe.
okay. Okay, on the back side, I see, okay.
Those two drawings, can I explain those two drawings?
Sure, please.
Our builder is Chris Allenson, and he took it upon himself to have a paving company, I'm sorry, I can't tell you which it was, come out to the site. They took measurements, and they indicated how much we'd have to expand different portions of it to get all the way up to my driveway. And the first drawing that was up there showed in darker colors the amount of widening of the road to get the full 16 feet. This one showed the composite, after it was all widened, the amount that would be paved coming up to my driveway. Now, having that given me no mileage whatsoever, because that was not engineered. It was simply the contractor trying to help me out by giving me an idea of just how much it might cost. The only thing I could say that I received out of that was a pretty good indication of how much the road would have to be expanded once it turned to go up to the main house, which is down at the bottom of that drawing. Now, I submitted that, and Jennifer said, that's not an engineered plan, and I agree with her. And she also told me, and it's in the book, I'm not complaining, that I would have to have an engineered plan, including contours, hydrology, and the whole 9 yards. And that the pavement obviously would have to be with the A76 standards. It was the prospect of doing that all the way from Washington Street extension up to my driveway that then led me to decide to ask for a hardship variance on this.
Okay, so what you're proposing are no paved areas at all, is that correct?
I am suggesting, let's put it that way, that first I'm asking for the entire waiver. Let's be upfront about that. But at the end of my 2-page letter, I am suggesting an alternative that I would do it up to where the driveways all intersect. And I would complete that road at 16 feet wide, the entire length out to Washington Street extension, and clean or replace any culverts there so that we would have adequate drainage there. Not trying to get around things. I simply don't want to carry it up into the trust property. To us, that is and has been for all these years a private driveway. I would like my house to front on a private driveway. And I've been told that I could go to the building inspector and I could get a permit to build the house and not ever come back here. But were I to do that, then there may be other situations that I'm creating for myself. As you know, lending institutions are loath to loan money in regards to a building that is not on any designated piece of land that goes with it, or the rights to that land that go with it.
Okay. Other questions from the board at this time?
I have some questions.
Ann?
Mr. Joy, when you testified on August 14th, you told us that that Road 18 on its trajectory towards Painter Hills Road ended at the Perrine driveway and then swung around and ran all the way up to the main house. What have you consulted since you were here at that time that's caused you now to change your mind about that?
I'll be honest, I don't remember my exact wording. at
Well, I
that time.
reviewed the video today, and
Okay.
that was what you told us.
I think the thing that has changed my mind is by looking, first of all, I was working with the surveyor, defining a plot plan for me, and his pointing out to me that that right-of-way, which at its beginning, we have been calling for years, Road 18. It is the same right-of-way going all the way over to the Painter Hills development. So if I led you to believe that Road 18 went up to the house, I was wrong.
Go ahead.
So where is the right of way past all the houses that goes over to Painter Hills?
Starts here, and it continues on.
Thank you.
Just so I can get a point of reference, so it would be south of the Perrine property, where is it more east, southeast? But as you drive into the Perrine property, you have an option to go into Perrines or go up the Smith driveway.
Well, Smith driveway starts right here.
Yes.
Euristas.
Yeah.
Do you
Right there.
stand a little bit farther back so that if you stand, let's see, I think if you
The
stand.
camera,
towards
the
the-
camera, the camera's in the
David.
corner.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
By the way, the next, sorry, the next page has exactly the same information, but with the names on it. If you-
It doesn't go all the way to Peter Hills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Road 18 coming in, this is the driveway going up to the, well, driveway coming in. It isn't accurate on this, it really comes up to here. This is Euristas and this is Paris. There is, when it comes, from here to about here, it is pretty much overgrown.
Okay. So Perrine property, when you drive into Ken and Carolyn's property, they have a paved driveway, obviously, and it's a circle in there. And does his property start at the pavement, his drive?
Well, his paved driveway comes up to intersect
Yes.
right about it here.
Yes.
And his house is down here.
Okay.
So he has paved his driveway partially in that right.
In that, okay, that's what I was trying to get in mind. Okay. All right, so.
Other questions?
I have a clarification question, I guess. So, the property that David is looking to subdivide off the main parcel, I mean, looking at the map there, it doesn't show the acreage, but it's a big parcel. Would there be the ability, I know we talked about this last time, I know you said you don't want to, but would there be the ability, and I guess my question is directed to you, Jen, or the board, to subdivide that property further after, if we grant David his subdivision? Could it be further subdivided? Potentially. To where, I know that's not what you want to do, and you've expressed that in the last meeting, I'm asking the what if.
Yes,
Okay.
and section 705 says that private right-of-ways need to be upgraded to road spec when they serve 4 or more properties. So it's already, whether you call it Road 18 or private driveway, no matter what you want to call it, it's still serving 4 properties. once Joy subdivides. So you're already at 4. I suppose if they subdivided more, you'd be serving 5 or 6.
So that would be the potential additional lots available there.
I haven't done the math on exactly how many lots would be
Okay.
available. I
But-
think
but
they're
it could be
trying to
further
say that it's a
subdivided.
moot point, because you're supposed to have a road after 4 anyway, so you're already at 4 if he subdivides. Anything from there is just salt in the wound.
Anybody else, any other questions at this point?
Just so I understand that, you're proposing from Washington Street Extension to that intersection where I'll call Smith's driveway to upgrade that as gravel only, not paved?
I am proposing that as an alternate for your consideration, yes.
Yes, okay.
Any other questions at this time from the board? Hearing none. Any comments from the public? Questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none. Jen, and any more information from the staff? Okay. Okay, the board asked enough questions. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that the board consider this matter in deliberative session.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will be going, after we hear the other cases, into deliberative session to discuss yours and possibly others' cases.
Will we be back in if you make a decision tonight, or?
It's a, well, you can either stay and see how late it is,
Mhm.
or you can find out tomorrow from Jan what our
Are we
decision.
permitted to sit in on the deliberative sessions?
No.
Okay. But you come out of deliberative session to vote?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, I'll be right back.
She needs a break.
Yep.
Are we taking a little break?
Yes, we are.
And so you'll also have to decide if
I'll be impersonating John.
All right, going.
Okay, next item on the business agenda, an application by RK Miles for a conditional use review of structures for storage of materials and 2 setback waivers. The property is located on the west side of Exchange Street, parcel 41040 in the general commercial zoning district. For those that will participate, I'll say the oath. I affirm that the evidence and information I'm giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief.
I'm going to recuse myself from this meeting since I'm still in a business relationship with RK Miles. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, then give us a,
I am Brent Rakowski. I'm with Otter Creek Engineering. I am representing RK Miles with this application. I'm here with Scott Flynn, owner, representing RK Miles. So I guess what we'd like to do is just give you a brief description. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the cover letter. I'm assuming you have. Generally, what we're looking to do is put 2 L-shaped storage sheds on the property that would skirt the north property line, or would be offset 5 feet south of the north property line. And then also a similar L-shaped shed that would be offset from the west property line. The western property is a Vermont Railway property. So I guess it was my understanding from the regulations that setback waiver from that rear property line would not be required. In addition to the L-shaped storage sheds, we're looking to do, RK Miles is looking to do a shed-type extension to an existing building to cover their loading dock area. So, and Scott and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have on this or go into more detail.
Just let me geographic, we're talking just west of the salt shed?
I am not sure where the salt shed is. The railway salt shed?
No, RK Miles is salt shed.
Oh, that little salt building in the center? Well, that's kind of in the center of the lot, but it's gonna border, it would border the, I guess, the north border, which is Champlain
Okay.
Fuels.
I know where we're at now, I just want to
Okay.
make sure, yes. Yeah. But you said you were going to add an extension to the existing building, I heard.
Right.
If you look at this, and I can point it out to you right here. This would be the addition right there.
Could you,
Sorry.
manage,
This would be
Where's the pointer?
I remember I heard you last time, it was good. But this would be the addition right here on the front of it. All it is just an open building, so we can put stuff in, so the wind don't blow up all the way down Exchange Street.
Okay,
Still have a pointer? Do we have a
No,
pointer?
we're not in-
I can't believe somebody took your pointer.
You're proposing a 5-foot setback for the north and for the west. And is that 8 for the front, for the east, or is that 5 also?
That is also 5. So,
Okay.
again, the understanding is that we would only need a waiver for the front and the north setback, because the rear is to the railway. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, I haven't understood what you meant by that since you,
Okay, so I sent an email earlier today, and you may have not seen it.
well, I wasn't.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, I guess my read of section 721 of the zoning, part 3, is that, I don't have the exact wording for it, but there is no waiver to a railway property. So, you don't need a waiver, you can build right up to the property line, is my understanding of that section.
The old I'm sorry.
No, I called Vermont Railway today to ask about that because I was curious, and that is fact,
Okay.
Oh, good.
that there is no setback going up.
I think
to
it has a
their
lot to
property.
do with being able to put offloading ramps and stuff right up there.
Yep.
All right, so, given that, then you're asking for a 5-foot on the front, on the east and the north side.
That's correct.
And the reason why you want a waiver is because?
I would have to say the biggest reason we need that waiver, or we would like that waiver, is because that's property that we would never use. It would just collect area between us and our neighbor that would never be hardly maintained or be able to get in there to maintain it very well. I did speak to our neighbor, and he encouraged me to go for as minimal as possible. He said, I think you can go for 5 feet. He said, that's what I would go for. Build it right up to my property line. That doesn't bother me a bit.
This
And-
is plumbing and heating? This is Champlain Plumbing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Heffernan, is it? John, is it?
Bill.
Bill, sorry, excuse me. So yeah, I went over and spoke to him, and he said, yeah, build it right up to the line. He said when he did his, he got the same setback, so he could get close to the line too. And it's basically, being a 3-sided shed, there's no use of the back of it at all. Absolutely none. I mean, it's all colored steel, and it's gonna create, a nice wind barrier for him, more or less, but, it protects the product, and as you've probably all seen, that when you drive by that yard, it looks pretty disgusting. So I'd like to get it cleaned up so we don't have stuff blowing all the way down through his yard and your yard and everybody else's yard.
So that's an 8-foot steel fence, is that what it is? Down that property line?
We have a steel fence around probably
No.
half of it,
Right.
but pretty much, but I think there's only maybe 75 feet from the road back, and then there's none on that northern property
So
line.
you're showing here, it appears to be a steel fence alongside, is that not what I'm seeing?
The dark line,
Yeah,
I assume that's the property line.
Yeah, the dash line.
but no fence.
Is the fence on the property line now?
My understanding from what I can see and what Bill said, it's right on the property line. So he said we own right up to him, right to where the grass starts, so that's what he told me. We have, tractor trailers that come in there and swing in there all the time. And we're running out of room to be able to get them in there because we got so much stuff in our yard. And if we pull it closer to the building, it's gonna be harder for the 53 footers to pull straight in and back up to that dock building. So the more space that we can gain there, the more usable it will be.
In looking at the schematic, just to clarify, I'm colorblind, but the red says proposed L-shed system. And then there's another line that says micro I-joist timber stand with 2 arrows. So are those structures two
The
different
same
structures?
type of structure, it's just, that was my head scratch as far as some of the ideas of product I'd put into them. Someone would have micro lambs, I-joist, timber strand, and that would be on both sides. I will tell you that we're looking for a permit for all of them, but we're only gonna go ahead with one of them this year, if we can. So,
And the intent for this, the structure is to take the materials or leave that space that is open,
open that whole big area back up so we
put the
can,
materials back
yeah,
in these.
put it away where it should be under cover, because right now, we have so much waste because it's just getting rained on and we write off a lot of material, so.
So I guess my question should have been clarified in that the what is given to us in our packet, that's gonna be the design of when you build them all.
Yes.
It'll all be the same, just
There's
different
one,
racking systems
right,
inside.
there's one change. That's correct. The basic design of the other structures that you see are correct. The only difference is once we shot a grade on that north side from east to west, we found out it was a 2% grade.
Ah.
So we're gonna have to step it every 50 feet down 12 inches. So the height is gonna change a little bit at one end, so.
So my only question is, along the section to the north that borders Champlain Valley, that I don't think we want to make it difficult for people coming out of the yard of Champlain Valley. I think your fence, you're encroaching on the visibility a lot by running it right up to that property line. I just think it's a visibility for customers coming out of there.
Am I correct in saying, and I'm trying to go by memory, but they have vehicles that park all the way up through
Not
there?
out to the end.
So it doesn't go all the way to the end, so
No, they don't park
the
out to
road
the
isn't
end.
all the way to the end?
Yeah.
They have a curb cut that comes in so
Right.
far with a cement curb that
Right.
limits them from coming all the way to the road.
But if I can also say,
I'm only
no, I
suggesting
totally
that-
understand, and I'm thinking in my mind, okay, we can put clear paneling on that end, but really, as I think about it, if I pull out of their yard and I'm gonna head, the only time that visibility is gonna affect me is if I'm going south, because I can't see the oncoming traffic, correct?
You really, it really should, the way should be clear both ways before you enter a public highway. What I'm saying is if you pull out there, you should be able to see if there's oncoming cars going north. I think that's gonna give a little obstacle there. In fact, a couple of years ago, they had a hot dog stand on the corner there. And I complained that it blocked the visibility for people trying to get out on the Exchange Street. I'm just saying, I would not want to hinder people be able to get out onto Exchange Street.
But and I understand what you're saying, but would that be the same as turning right on red? There is nobody to contend to on the right, it's only the left. You only gotta worry about people coming from the left, because you're turning right. If you're turning,
If you pull out with a tractor trailer, or a large truck, or a Casella's truck, sometimes it's difficult to stay on your own lane. Let's be real, you can't do it a large truck can't do it in the space that you're allowing him to do it. I'm only saying, I have no problem with the project. I would just like to make sure that you're not impeding any way the visibility for people leaving that place of business onto Exchange Street. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's something you may need to go down there and put a piece of plywood up and see where it is and see what it looks like. Because people drive pretty fast on that road, especially when they're going out of town that way. Just a suggestion.
no, I hear you, no.
I think it's a great project. I'm not against the project. I'm just concerned that we need to also remember that there are other users of the highway and it needs to be safe for them as well.
What is the, one other thing related to that point and line of sight and whatever, it's not there now, but Jen, isn't there a plan for potential sidewalk to maybe go up that side of the street?
Where's that
Yeah.
sidewalk
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, the sidewalk, I've talked to them a little bit, it's gonna go on that side.
Yes.
And it's gonna stop at, I was told, right there, Champlain Oil. It's gonna cross basically just before our property and then go all the way down through. That's what I was told, working with them.
You're correct.
Yeah.
I would say that working with Jen to come up with, and we're maybe only talking 10 feet of,
Right, exactly, like a car.
Yeah.
You pull a car up to the
Yeah.
white line,
yeah.
how much do you need to look down the street? I understand what you're
But you
saying.
gotta have clear visibility.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, so.
Do you have any, and maybe you've said it somewhere, about the color of the metal siding on the north side?
We haven't come up with a color, I mean, we're up to,
Won't be bright yellow?
no, usually I think they have like a forest green or, I don't know, I would say it would be a darker color, but we really hadn't picked out a color.
Is that a DAB, Jen?
DAC?
I don't think that would go in front of the DAC,
Okay.
but it's a good thought about the color. Red is kind of garish too, you know, if you're going with like an earth tone or a dark color, that's.
Yeah, we want something that's gonna somewhat blend in a little bit, you know what I mean?
That's all I was,
Yeah,
not a bright red or.
exactly, I hear you.
Okay.
Even a stone gray, a light gray blends in pretty well. I think that's what's on a lot of our buildings.
Okay, other questions at this time? Jen, you have any comments?
Nice to get all of our questions.
Um, Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy.
okay. Any comments from the public at this time, or questions? Hearing none. Other questions from the board at this time?
I have a question for anybody who knows. Do we actually know where the sidewalk might go? Or did we not sort that out? Like, that's the big question to me. I appreciate the concern about the turn-in, but I think that can be managed.
Yeah, isn't the sidewalk supposed to go between the fence, the current fence, and the paved route?
Across the
Side
street, McIntyre Fields.
I wish I knew, it's actually being managed by RPC, I'm not sure, but
The
I
engineer
can find
came
that
in,
information.
yeah, the engineer came and spoke to us,
Uh-huh,
and I had a long conversation with him because originally they wanted to put it right across our parking lot where and their parking lot's pretty small as it is.
Right.
They were gonna put a 30-foot island in the center of it, which we just can't get trucks in. So we talked to him and negotiated with him a little bit, and we agreed we're gonna put it below we're gonna, instead of crossing up where the building is, the office is, we're gonna have a crosswalk there for like our employees and stuff.
Right.
But just before there, it's gonna be the main crosswalk, before our just at the end of our property. And it's gonna cross there and then go on the west side of the street, all the way up, then cross our yard, which we don't care.
Right.
And, you know, and even there's a little island in front of that little gray building, we don't care. And then it's gonna go right between the fence and the road is what I was told, right on the edge,
Up the west side of the road,
west side,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's the western edge of the proposed sidewalk, as you understand it, would still be 5 feet from the location of this structure, because the fence is on the property line?
It'd probably be more than that, really, because the fence is further away from the road than that. I'd have to measure that fence, how far it is from the
Yeah,
road, but,
it looks like it's on the property line from this shot, but that's not necessarily accurate.
yeah, I think there's probably, I don't know, but I'm gonna say maybe 12 feet there, 10, 12 feet, but I would really have to take a look at that.
If that were the case, that probably would not have any issue with the line of sight coming in.
Right.
But I would just like to make sure that
Mhm.
it's just back there.
Very valid point.
And I would support the project with the condition that you work with Jen on the sidewalk and where the line of sight would
And
come
Ken's
on that.
engineering plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a fairly well-defined body of geometry, right? That if the road's going 45 miles an hour, you need a certain sight wedge.
Right.
And we know that there's a curve out there where that would start, so. I think it is a big concern, and boy, having the sidewalk be part of that is a even bigger one, long-term for this neighborhood. I'm sure the owners of this business don't want to screw up the future sidewalk. They do.
Gary?
I think the plans are out for the sidewalk, aren't they, or the drawings, or the suggested drawings?
Oh, yes,
So,
they're probably, and the other good part about it is we could crowd it toward the railroad a little bit more if we needed for the visibility. You know, we left room down there, so when the two come together, it doesn't create there's a dead spot in there, but there's no reason why we couldn't push that one down and pull this one back just a little bit.
But you're not gonna remove the existing fence along James
no.
Street, so that wouldn't matter.
No one matter. I do not remove that.
Yeah.
so you can coordinate that with him once you see the plans, right?
Yeah, I can find those plans.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess the
Regional
permit
planning.
would be contingent on,
Kathleen, I'll have them, yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
like-
sorry?
I like
and the
plan
permit would be
otherwise.
contingent on
Mhm.
your accepting of the, okay?
Yeah, Ann?
Can I just clarify, although section 721(3), Roman numeral 3 says you don't need a setback, you are in fact going to keep 5 feet from your property line to the proposed new building for maintenance purposes on the back side of that metal or whatever facing you have there.
So I think the way Don worded that makes good sense from the zoning administrator's perspective that, it's like you guys are granting setback waivers and then I'll issue the permit.
Right.
So you could just specify that issuance of the permit will be conditional on figuring those things out. That's a good way to structure that.
Makes good sense.
Any other questions or comments? If none, is there a motion? Gary, you want to try another motion?
Why not?
Redeem yourself, okay?
Make it worse, don't we? I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of October 9, 2017, approve this request for setback waivers to construct open storage sheds within 5 feet of the front, rear, and side property lines as shown on the site plan submittal for parcel 21 -040 located at 103 Exchange Street with coordination with our administrator
Regarding,
regarding
Sidewalk and site
sidewalk.
distance.
Sidewalk and visibility issue.
Rather than saying within 5 feet, I think it should say no closer than 5 feet.
Yep, okay. I
Okay.
accept that amendment.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second as amended.
Second as amended. Questions about the motion as amended? All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, motion carried. I voted yes.
Getting a little better, not perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, she's been giving us some hard ones lately. Gonna get this done before winter?
We're hoping to get it up, we'll see.
Okay.
We're hoping.
Well, Tom and Lindsay get the same picture, but we'll take that off of there.
That's one ugly apartment from an aerial point of view, isn't it? Yeah. We have
See,
the
We
same-
got
we have the
RK
same aerial
Miles'
photos
photo
as
on your thing. That's why you're like, whoa there.
We're not proposing to build that.
I say, Ann came in and reviewed the tape to get her up to speed on the last.
Well, yes, I think you're the only one that doesn't do that.
I was the worst person we'd ever run into on a board.
As a full-time elected position.
Right, just call my son ugly.
When I retire, I don't have time to come in and look at that stuff with Ann. I'll be up to speed.
Wish you luck. When you retire.
Okay.
Sorry.
Next item on the agenda, an application by SW Apartments for conditional use review and setback waiver request to construct attached storage units for several apartment units. The property is located on Sugarwood Court, parcel 5108 in the high-density residential zoning district. I'll administer the oath. I affirm that the evidence and information I am giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief.
I do.
Okay, if you'd like to introduce yourself and give us a brief project description.
Tom Getz, one of the owners of SW Apartments. This is 6 apartment buildings at Sugarwood Court, and we're actually in the middle now of a rehabilitation project there. These are all low-income units, and we're doing a very significant rehab project. And what we'd like to do is add sheds to the back of each of the buildings, and one of them is within 15 feet of the property line. It's marked as Building 4 on the packet we submitted. Each of these buildings has very small storage. They're all 2, 3, 4 bedroom apartments, and they have a very small, about 10 square foot storage space in the front currently. And as part of this rehab, everything, all the siding's being redone, everything, all the interior is being redone. But one of the problems in the past has been just the clutter. It's out front, that their storage sheds aren't big enough. Things end up just being placed out front. And so these storage sheds, which for buildings 1, 2, and 3, or the only one that'll need the waiver of the setback would be this Building 4. So that's really, I know it's said in the agenda that it's for, this is for waivers on several sheds, but really all we're talking about here is Building 4 there, where we'd like to put, attach the 2 sheds. We're talking about 6 by 10 stick sheds, just a little concrete pier off the back of the building, no breakthrough into the existing buildings now. There's a door on the side. We've done little drawings here on the elevations where you can see the 6 by 10 attached sheds on the back. They'd be sided to match the existing vinyl siding, 1 door, no windows. And that is pretty much the plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Being familiar with some of these apartments here, the access to the shed is not from inside the building?
Correct. There's a door, yeah, so we have a door on the outside, one
Right.
door on each
Yeah, I'm
shed. No,
familiar- Right.
no access from the inside.
Because some of them, the existing buildings had, in the walkways, had little storage in the breezeway.
Exactly, that's the only storage on.
So those still exist?
Those still exist, yeah, and they're there's not much,
No,
not much room in there. They
say.
fill up very quickly.
Yeah.
It's all the bikes and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have people able to put around back.
Go ahead, Ann.
On this building 4, on the sides of the buildings, I noticed that there are utilities there and windows. Is there any space at all there to have those sheds for that building on the sides rather than at the rear?
No, because what you see on the sides is either windows or then the porch is right there on the side of this building. So there would be really nowhere to put it on the side of those buildings.
Aren't those second means of egress out of there as well on those sides?
Yes, that porch has
Yeah.
the double doors that comes out the
Yeah.
side, and then there's windows on the other one. So it really wouldn't work on the sides of the building.
The unit that you really only need the waiver for is abutting
4.
the town of Middlebury and the wooded area.
Correct.
And that was land that was gifted to the town of Middlebury by Eleanor Means. So that's still Eleanor Means property, but it belongs to the park. So,
Means Woods, right?
Other questions?
that-
Means Woods, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you heard anything from the town about this application?
Nope. I have heard from the other property owners, the Malcolms. She thought that this application sounded fine. Talked to Nancy about it a little bit.
I believe you can call that town of Middlebury property, but it really belongs to the Eleanor Means Trust. The town just is a board that oversees the Means property.
So would the Eleanor Means Trust have been given notice of this meeting?
No? Nope.
Are we required to?
I'm required to send it to the people on the tax map, so I don't know about the whole, like, trust, this, that, the other thing. Town of Middlebury is on the tax maps. So I've met my legal obligation here.
Yeah.
Jack Brown and, Steve, who's the guy up on Chip?
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, the trustee.
I mean, it might have been nice if I
I
had
just-
known all that, but, I mean,
that's-
just legally speaking, it's still warned properly.
That is,
When Building 4 was constructed, did you receive a setback waiver at that time from the town of Middlebury Means Woods property?
That I'm not sure. There was no, so this was built about 35 years ago. We just purchased it in June. And, you know, as part of our purchase, we did get, you know, as a part of our financing, we had to get our zoning and permit opinions, and there was nothing in there, you know, about whether it was non-conforming at the time. I'm not sure if it was non-conforming at the time, but I don't have anything in my files about that.
nonprofit.
Any other questions, comments?
All I can say is, under the new owners, I've been in there quite a bit, and they have done an unbelievable job of taking a 40-year-old structure and making it look really nice.
I agree, but I think the issue is whether we actually have the power to grant this or not within the regulations.
Is there anything I can answer on that, or what is the issue that?
Section 835. There can't be an increase in the degree of non-compliance, particularly involving new construction within a required setback yard.
So
And
this being,
there's a 13-foot setback right
Yeah.
now,
right,
which should be 25.
right.
So
So were it in compliance, you'd have the authority to grant it to what we're looking for, but if it's there's a potential issue because it's non-conforming currently that might take that.
Pretty strange.
Away.
That's how it seems to read.
Could you grant an existing structure a waiver as is? So the existing structure becomes a waiver for its existing non-conformance, and then grant the waiver on top of that?
I don't believe so, because there are many, many properties around town that have been where they are for 100 years or more, and they no longer conform. But it's, I'm not the sole arbiter of this question. So I don't know if...
Is number 4 the only one that's not in conformance? We could grant the others and,
He doesn't need
He
the
doesn't need it.
oh, it's just number 4.
You can still move those, and even if you put them to the north of building 4, you would be in compliance.
Detached?
Yes.
Yeah, the backup plan here, that was the thought, was if it got denied, I mean, everybody, people live in the same community, they want to feel like they have the same amenities, so if they have,
Yeah,
others have
I agree.
attached sheds that look nice, the backup, though, that was kind of the thought, that was we do just a detached, temporary, kind of a storage shed for them that is just, sits off to the side of their building and is not a permanent structure necessarily yet. But, I mean, if you have the power to grant the waiver, we would certainly think it would be the best thing for the community.
I certainly don't think it's gonna impact the current property under the jurisdiction of the trust. It's wooded, huh?
So it was in
It's
perpetuity?
a park.
It's a park.
There'll never be anything there. There isn't even a trail that far. The trail is way up the top of the map.
Any other questions, comments?
So I guess I'm a little confused. I understand what the applicant is looking for, and to be honest, we just had RK Miles here, different district, but they were looking to somewhat get a waiver for a setback. So you're saying with the language that you're reading that, did we do the wrong thing with RK Miles as well?
No, because RK Miles' property is, as far as I could tell, in compliance at this time. The applicant grasped the point quite quickly that if the existing setback was 25 feet, then we could probably give him a 20-foot waiver. But because it's only 13 feet and 25 feet is required, it seems like we can't give him anything because we're increasing his non-compliance, which I agree doesn't make any sense, but that's how I read it, and I don't see that the board has the power to do things in contravention of the regulations.
Okay.
I mean, I think it would be great to have the sheds back there. It is awfully tight, and I agree with Don that it's not going to have much, if any, impact on that wooded area, but nevertheless, I'm not sure that we can do it.
I wish I had the regulation in front of me. I should have, Jen, she sent me an email alerting me that this was, it had come up in the past.
And has.
Yes,
Okay.
they're on here.
Yes, she rocks good. Yeah. Did that you shoot her?
The thing that doesn't make sense here is that if that building were conforming, we could grant a waiver
Yeah.
to within 5 feet of the property line.
In fact, if Tom tore the whole building down, you could grant the waiver and he could rebuild it back with a shed on it and you're good to go. You know, which is why a straight reading of that regulation doesn't always make logical sense.
Give me a little history when those were built.
So they were built in 1982, I believe.
You
And
had just gone through a zoning, zoning change at the time.
But I had a shed that was built in 1800, and when I wanted to replace it, because it was within the setback, the side setback, I had to get a waiver. Even though my shed was already there from 200 years ago. And that's one of the things I thought about in connection with this application, that there are all these places all around town, just like that. So just because it was built way back when, whether it was 82 or 1782, doesn't really make any difference.
So it's the current setback requirement that would apply to his that was built before possibly the current setback requirement.
That's my view of things. I'm not claiming
No,
to have
I
special knowledge
Sure.
or anything about this. That's just how I read it.
I would say I read this a little differently, though, this section 835, because it does say, it says, nothing in this article shall be read to prevent structures enlarging non-conforming uses as long as they don't increase the degree of non-compliance. So nothing,
That means you can have it on the side, but not on the back.
so, right, it says nothing in this article shall be deemed to prevent us from expanding it as long as there is, as long as it's not a current non-compliance, right? But that doesn't say you cannot still seek a waiver for that.
Correct.
So we can still seek a waiver, and unless there was something else in the article that prevented us from getting a waiver for a non-conforming use, I think that 724 still applies.
That's the strongest counter argument, really.
Personally, if I was gonna live in that apartment,
Yeah.
I had to go all the way outside and go around to get into my shed, probably wouldn't use it.
You had to, if your shed was
I
out.
wouldn't use it, I wouldn't, because that's, to me, that's not convenient.
You mean, you would leave it empty?
I'd probably leave it empty.
No.
I wouldn't use it, it's not,
I know these folks have a lot of stuff that they,
yeah, I understand.
we'll make them use it because that's part of the regulations. They can't
That's
just leave the
right.
stuff on the lawn.
People put stuff in storage sheds that they pay monthly for.
Any,
So you see what Tom's saying? He's
Yes.
saying
Yes.
that language makes total sense, that you can't make it more non-conforming, but there's nothing in section 835 that says you couldn't seek a setback waiver to allow that to happen.
yes.
Because basically anything you grant a setback waiver for is creating a nonconformity. So I don't know, I'm not casting a
It's
vote
not-
either way. Just
It's
wanna
not
make sure.
creating a nonconformity, it's increasing it.
Yeah, that's what he can't do just on a normal day's maintenance run. I can't let him just do that, or he can't do that. But he could maybe get a setback waiver. There's nothing that says he couldn't get a waiver for it.
Isn't that why you exist? Isn't that why we have a board?
The regulations provide certain steps that we're allowed to take if we think it's justifiable, and others we have no discretion over.
Any other questions this time? Comments? Info? Is the board ready for a motion? And we have 4 options. Approve, deny, recess, or go to deliberative session.
I make a motion that we go to deliberative session.
Is there a second to the motion? Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will be going into deliberative session. And you can either hang around and wait, or you can check with Jen tomorrow and see what the results
Are
are.
we gonna talk about his first, or are we gonna go back to the previous?
That's up to,
Thank you.
that's up to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can just continue with this, knock this out before we go back. The other one's
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah, fresh in their minds.
Okay,
Are we-
we're gonna go into deliberative session now.
Do you need a motion to do that, or no?
We had one.
We did. Okay.
Tell me when we're ready, Kathy, please.
Yeah.
We are. Okay, we're out of executive session now, and, if somebody would like to make a motion on,
I will make a motion in regard to the Sugarwood Court property. I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of October 9, 2017, deny this request for setback waiver to construct a storage shed within 7 feet of the rear property line at Sugarwood Apartments, 15 Sugarwood Court, subject to the conditions of this decision.
is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. The next applicant is Mr. Joy. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that after consideration by the board of the arguments presented by the applicant David Joy on October 9th,
Can you hang on 1 second?
2017.
Hang on 1 second right there while I write this down. Okay, thanks, Ann.
That we reaffirm our preliminary determination of August 14th and reiterate the requirement that the items requested in that decision be presented to the board before consideration of the final review of this subdivision application.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? One abstention. Mr. Keeler. Next item is other business. Hearing none. Next item is adjournment. Is there a motion? There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Meeting is adjourned. We're all done, Kathy.